The NFL just exploded, and if you think it's only about a fired coach or a single Twitter clapback, think again. Over the past week, the Browns shook the league by firing Kevin Stefanski after 6 seasons at the helm. This wasn't just another coaching change, it was chaos in real time. Analysts, fans, and players all had opinions, and the internet went wild. But things got even hotter when Rex Ryan, the former Jets and Bills head coach turned TV analyst, went nuclear on live television. And let me tell you, no one was safe. Stefanski got compared to Norv Turner, yes, that Norv Turner, and Rex didn't hold back on criticizing everything from his offensive strategies to his ability to manage quarterbacks. The words were harsh, personal, and perfect fuel for a viral firestorm. Enter Shedeur Sanders. The Colorado quarterback saw the clip, and he wasn't about to let that slide. His response? Sharp, concise, and fearless. He called out Rex's credibility, reminding the world that this man hasn't coached in the NFL since 2016, while Stefanski actually led a team to the playoffs. Fans erupted online. Some said Shedeur was speaking facts. Others told him to stay in his lane. But this wasn't just a rookie speaking. This was a future star establishing his presence in the league before even throwing his first official NFL pass. Meanwhile, on the field, history was being made. Myles Garrett, one of the most dominant defensive players in the league, broke the single-season sack record. The refs literally stopped the game to honor him, and his teammates mobbed him in celebration. But not everyone was happy. The Cincinnati Bengals, specifically head coach Zach Taylor and wide receiver Jamar Chase, complained loudly about the stoppage, claiming they were fighting for their lives in a game that they were already mathematically out of. Analysts quickly called out their overreaction, pointing out that NFL history has always paused for record-breaking moments. Garrett's achievement wasn't just a personal milestone. It was a reminder of why the NFL is as much about drama and spectacle as it is about sport. So now, you've got multiple storylines colliding all at once. A fired coach whose career is being dissected in real time. A former head coach turned analyst raining judgment from his studio seat. A rookie quarterback refusing to stay quiet and defending what's right. And a defensive superstar claiming his historic moment while opposing teams throw a tantrum. Add social media into the mix, and suddenly the entire league feels like it's on fire. Everyone has an opinion, everyone's picking sides, and the story doesn't end with a tweet, a clip, or a stat line. It's just the beginning. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why the NFL is more divided than ever, why Shedeur Sanders' response is more than just a viral moment, and how Myles Garrett's record-breaking performance ties it all together. Buckle up, because the league is burning, the internet is watching, and what happens next will shock even the most die-hard fans. This isn't just news, it's NFL chaos at its finest. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay locked in on all the latest NFL drama, make sure you hit that like button. It helps the video reach more people who love this content just like you. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another update, reaction, or storyline as it unfolds in real time. I also want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about Shedeur Sanders' performance and the Browns' collapse? Drop your thoughts below and let's talk about it. And don't forget to share this video with friends who follow the NFL. Your support truly keeps the channel moving forward. When the Browns announced Kevin Stefanski was out after 6 seasons, jaws dropped across the NFL. On paper, Stefanski looked like the guy who would finally turn Cleveland into a contender. Coach of the Year, playoff appearances, an offense that showed flashes of brilliance, he seemed like the safe bet. But anyone paying attention beyond the headlines knew the story was far messier. Cleveland's quarterback situation was a revolving door of chaos. Baker Mayfield, Jacoby Brissett, and even Deshaun Watson, with all the drama and controversy around him, never gave Stefanski the stability he needed. Add in a carousel of backups who never stood a chance, and suddenly, the offensive genius label started to feel a little hollow. Stats tell part of the story, and they don't lie. Since Stefanski took over in 2020, the Browns ranked in the bottom 4 of the league in QBR, yards per attempt, and completion percentage. That's right, bottom 4. On top of that, the team threw 98 interceptions under his tenure. 98. Not development. Not growing pains. Chaos. Even when things seemed to click, the consistency was never there. You could see why frustrations were brewing in the locker room and among fans. But it wasn't all Stefanski's fault. The team's front office decisions often tied his hands. The Deshaun Watson trade and massive contract, while flashy on paper, crippled flexibility in ways Stefanski couldn't fix. Injuries decimated continuity along the offensive line, and offensive weapons were scarce. Each week felt like starting over. Despite all that, Stefanski kept the Browns competitive, got them to the playoffs, and managed a roster that was anything but perfect. Yet in the eyes of critics, good enough wasn't enough. Firing itself was abrupt, almost shocking in its timing. No long farewell or measured reflection. One day, Stefanski was the face of the Browns' future. The next, he was gone, leaving questions and debates in his wake. And just like that, a coaching carousel opened. Fans, analysts, and other teams immediately began speculating. Who would be next? Who's capable of taking a dysfunctional situation and turning it into a contender? Some saw opportunity. Others saw disaster waiting to happen. What makes this story especially wild is how it sets the stage for the drama that follows. Because Stefanski's firing wasn't just a Browns problem, it became national news. It sparked hot takes, viral clips, and even personal attacks from former coaches like Rex Ryan, who wasted no time reducing 6 years of work into a soundbite about one playoff win and comparing Stefanski to Norv Turner. Suddenly, what should have been a quiet coaching transition turned into a full-blown NFL spectacle. And here's the kicker. The firing didn't just highlight Stefanski's challenges or failures. It exposed a bigger issue, how the league judges coaches, how media narratives shape public perception, and how young stars like Shedeur Sanders are already watching, learning, and preparing to call out the unfairness when they see it. Cleveland's decision was the spark, but the flames were only just beginning. Just when you thought the Browns' drama couldn't get any bigger, Rex Ryan stepped in and turned the heat up to maximum. The former Jets and Bills head coach, now a TV analyst, went nuclear on live television, and no one was safe. Stefanski, freshly fired, became his target, and what followed was less analysis and more of verbal demolition. "Damn Norv Turner," he said, comparing Stefanski to a coach who was notorious for underperforming when it mattered most. One playoff win in 6 years, Rex added, and then didn't stop there. Every word felt like it was aimed to sting, questioning Stefanski's offensive genius, his quarterback management, and even whether anyone should be interested in hearing him again. The shock value was immediate. Analysts and hosts on set could barely keep up. Some nodded awkwardly, others looked like they wanted to say something, but Rex wasn't giving anyone a chance. He was on a mission to take a coach who had just lost his job and reduce 6 years of work to a punchline. And while some fans thought, okay, maybe he's just keeping it real, there was an undeniable cruelty in the delivery. This wasn't a balanced critique. It was a broadcasted humiliation, and the NFL world was watching. Part of what made this clip explode online wasn't just the words, it was the timing. Stefanski was gone, the Browns were in a state of flux, and social media had already begun turning every move into content. Rex's comments were the perfect storm for virality. Memes started to pop up immediately, fans debated whether he was being fair, and pundits weighed in on whether Stefanski's record truly deserved such harsh judgment. The narrative quickly shifted from Browns fire Stefanski to Rex Ryan publicly roasts Stefanski on TV. And suddenly everyone had a side to pick. But here's the kicker. The more people dissected Rex's words, the more scrutiny fell on him. His coaching record, which many had forgotten, came under the microscope. Jets and Bills fans remembered seasons like 8-8, 7-9, 7-9, and then the fact that he hasn't coached in the NFL since 2016. The irony was palpable. The man criticizing someone else for limited playoff success had a track record that at best was mixed. Social media didn't hold back. People began comparing Rex's career to Stefanski, pointing out how his defensive-minded teams often couldn't score when it mattered, how he had missed opportunities, and how time had moved on without him on the sidelines. The clip spread like wildfire. NFL fans, former players, analysts, and casual watchers all weighed in. Some said he was telling the truth. Stefanski's record wasn't perfect. Others said he had no right to reduce a coach's career to a single line of mockery. And while Rex probably expected reactions, he may not have predicted the next move in this saga. Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback who hasn't even thrown an official NFL pass yet, watching it all unfold and preparing to respond. This moment wasn't just a roast. It was the catalyst. It set the stage for one of the most viral, talked-about exchanges of the season, and it reminded the league. Old-school analysts may have opinions, but the next generation isn't afraid to push back. Just when it seemed like the Browns' drama had peaked, Shedeur Sanders stepped into the firestorm, and he didn't hold back. The Colorado quarterback, still a college star, saw Rex Ryan's live TV roast of Kevin Stefanski, and his reaction was swift, sharp, and fearless. He didn't hesitate. A single tweet, concise and cutting, reminded everyone why he's not just another rookie waiting to make a name for himself. Funny hearing coaching criticism from a man who hasn't coached since 2016. At least Stefanski made the playoffs, he wrote. Boom. Just like that, the NFL world paused. The reaction online was instantaneous. Fans exploded in support, praising Shedeur for speaking truth to power. Analysts began breaking down his response, noting that it wasn't disrespectful for disrespect's sake. It was pointed, precise, and grounded in facts. Stefanski may have had a mixed record, but at least he was in the arena, managing a difficult team, making tough decisions week after week. Rex Ryan, 9 years removed from coaching, critiquing someone actively doing the job. Shedeur's point landed hard. Of course, not everyone agreed. Some told him to stay in his lane, arguing that he hadn't played a snap in the NFL yet. But this moment wasn't about credentials. It was about awareness, confidence, and a refusal to be pushed around. Growing up as Coach Prime's son, Shedeur has been under the brightest microscope imaginable. He's learned how to navigate criticism, handle controversy, and maintain composure while under immense pressure. Watching a former coach publicly disrespect someone, he recognized a bigger picture: accountability, credibility, and the double standards that exist in the league. Shedeur's response also signaled a shift in the NFL culture. The next generation of players isn't afraid to call out unfairness, even from veterans or analysts with decades of experience. His tweet wasn't just a clapback, it was a statement. He's here to be a player who thinks critically, speaks up, and holds people accountable, even when it makes waves. And let's be real, that kind of confidence and fearlessness is exactly what separates good quarterbacks from elite ones. Look at Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson. They all have that swagger, that I'm the best on this field mentality. Shedeur is showing early signs of the same mindset. Social media didn't let this moment die quietly. Memes circulated comparing Rex Ryan's coaching record to Stefanski. Analysts debated, fans argued, and Shedeur's credibility skyrocketed overnight. What started as a simple observation quickly became a viral conversation about respect, leadership, and how the league measures success. In the middle of Brown's chaos, Rex Ryan's harsh commentary, and a viral tweet, Shedeur Sanders emerged as more than a college quarterback. He became a symbol of the new era, bold, unapologetic, and unafraid to stand up for what's right. His entrance into this story didn't just add fuel to the fire, it changed the entire narrative. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a fired coach or a TV analyst. It was about the future of the league and the type of players who are shaping it. As Shedeur Sanders' tweet went viral, the spotlight quickly shifted back to Rex Ryan, and suddenly the critic became the subject of scrutiny. Everyone started digging into his coaching past, and what they found didn't exactly bolster his credibility. Rex, who spent years building a reputation as a defensive mastermind, had coached the Jets from 2009 to 2014 and the Bills from 2015 to 2016. On paper, it looked solid: tough defenses, a no-nonsense personality, and playoff appearances. But the details told a different story. His last 3 seasons, 8-8, 7-9, 7-9. Playoff success was limited, and when it mattered most, his teams often fell short. The irony wasn't lost on the internet. Here was a man publicly mocking Kevin Stefanski for only having 1 playoff win, yet Rex himself hadn't captured a championship, hadn't coached in 9 years, and had left both the Jets and Bills without any lasting offensive imprint. Social media exploded with comparisons. Rex's defensive-minded teams could keep scores low, but when the pressure was on, the offense sputtered. The Jets lost critical games. The Bills never made a deep run. Analysts pointed out that his career, while entertaining and full of personality, didn't exactly scream authority to critique. Memes circulated instantly. Side-by-side graphics appeared showing Stefanski's one playoff win alongside Rex's records. Fans reminded everyone that Stefanski had at least navigated a difficult Browns roster, managed injuries, and handled quarterback chaos. Rex, meanwhile, had been removed from the coaching hot seat for nearly a decade, with his last NFL team finishing mediocre seasons. The message was clear. Words carry weight, but history carries more. And it wasn't just the records. Analysts highlighted Rex's pattern of criticism. His tendency to roast coaches and players on live TV made for great entertainment, but the credibility gap was real. How could someone who hadn't coached in years claim authority over someone still actively in the trenches? The comparisons started to feel almost poetic. The defensive genius who preached accountability on camera had his own history of teams underperforming when stakes were high. For many, it looked like Rex was unknowingly criticizing himself through Stefanski. Even casual fans joined the conversation. Tweets, TikToks, and posts circulated with stats, quotes, and clips, all pointing out that Rex's criticisms, while sharp, were shallow when viewed in context. Shedeur's response now made even more sense. The rookie wasn't just defending Stefanski, he was exposing a larger truth about credibility in the NFL. You can talk about coaching all you want, but if your own record is riddled with mediocrity, maybe sit down before roasting someone still in the fight. By the time the clip had gone viral, the conversation wasn't just about Stefanski anymore. It was about accountability, perspective, and the blurred lines between analysis and ego. Rex Ryan's past wasn't just history, it had become a mirror, reflecting back the very criticisms he had aimed at Stefanski. And as the NFL world watched, it became painfully clear. Sometimes the loudest critic has the most to answer for. Just when you thought the NFL drama had reached its peak with coaching firings and Twitter clapbacks, Myles Garrett reminded everyone why the league is never boring. The Browns' star defensive end shattered the single-season sack record, cementing his place in NFL history. 23 sacks in one season, a record that had stood for decades, and the refs actually stopped the game so he could celebrate. The crowd erupted, his teammates mobbed him, and social media immediately exploded. This wasn't just a personal milestone, it was a league-wide spectacle. But as often happens in the NFL, greatness doesn't come without controversy. The Cincinnati Bengals, specifically head coach Zach Taylor and wide receiver Jamar Chase, were furious. They argued the stoppage was unnecessary, claiming they were fighting for their lives in the game. The irony: Cincinnati was 6-11, out of playoff contention, and mathematically done for the season. Analysts didn't hold back, calling out the overreaction for what it was. NFL history has always paused to honor record-breaking moments, from Walter Payton's rushing records to other legendary feats. Garrett wasn't slowing the clock or altering the outcome. He was being recognized for doing something extraordinary. The scene became a perfect storm. Browns fans celebrating, Bengals fans outraged, analysts dissecting every angle, and social media igniting with debates. Memes comparing the seriousness of the game to the moment Garrett was being honored went viral instantly. Some argued respect for history was non-negotiable, while others pretended that a 30-second pause somehow gave the Browns an advantage. The absurdity of the claims only fueled the drama. What made Garrett's record-breaking moment so fascinating wasn't just the stat line, it was the reaction. It highlighted the growing tension in the NFL between tradition, competition, and respect for historic achievements. Players breaking records are now under the microscope not just from analysts, but from opposing teams who feel slighted, even when there's no real harm done. It also underscored a bigger point about how the league manages narratives. Social media amplifies every gripe, and players like Garrett become symbols in the ongoing drama between teams, coaches, and fans. Meanwhile, the Browns' locker room celebrated like history had been made because it had. Garrett's 23 sacks weren't just numbers, they were proof of dominance, skill, and consistency. And while Cincinnati tried to spin it as a crisis, the NFL universe largely sided with Garrett. Analysts called it an iconic moment, a record worth celebrating, and what the game is all about. Even casual fans were forced to admit this was greatness on display, and anyone trying to downplay it just looked petty. By the time the clips circulated across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, the debate had taken on a life of its own. Browns versus Bengals, celebration versus competition. Greatness versus whining, all boiling down to one simple fact. Myles Garrett had made history. And in the NFL, when history is made, everyone has an opinion, everyone takes a side, and chaos inevitably follows. The NFL isn't just about touchdowns and tackles anymore. It's about credibility. And right now, the league is facing a crisis that goes way beyond the field. Between fired coaches, viral clapbacks, and record-breaking feats, one question keeps coming up. Who actually has the authority to call out who? Rex Ryan's live TV roast of Kevin Stefanski and Shedeur Sanders' viral response laid bare a bigger problem. The line between experience and opinion has never been blurrier. Fans, analysts, and players are all watching, and they're not afraid to call out hypocrisy. Take coaching criticism, for example. Rex Ryan tore into Stefanski for only having one playoff win and compared him to Norv Turner. On the surface, it sounded brutal but fair. Stefanski's record wasn't perfect. But then people dug into Rex's own coaching history, and the narrative shifted fast. 9 years out of the league, a middling record with the Jets and Bills, and yet he felt comfortable publicly roasting someone still in the trenches. The internet exploded with comparisons, memes, and sharp commentary. Suddenly, Rex Ryan's credibility was being questioned, and people realized authority to criticize isn't just about talking loud or being famous. It's about actual experience, context, and results. And this isn't just a coach-player issue. Myles Garrett breaking the single-season sack record and facing complaints from the Bengals highlights a similar problem. Garrett was being celebrated for one of the greatest defensive feats in NFL history, yet the opposing team tried to frame the celebration as an injustice. Fans and analysts quickly pointed out the absurdity, noting that the Bengals were out of playoff contention and that Garrett wasn't impacting the game's outcome. But the fact that this even became a debate shows how polarized perspectives are. Achievement is now scrutinized through the lens of opinion, and opinions don't always align with reality. Then there's Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback who hasn't thrown an NFL pass yet, stepping in to defend Stefanski and call out Rex Ryan. It's a reminder that credibility isn't always tied to tenure or title. Knowledge, insight, and the courage to speak up matter too. And in today's NFL, players are realizing they have a voice, and they're using it. Social media has amplified that voice, making the league a constant feedback loop of analysis, critique, and debate. The problem is, when everyone has an opinion and everyone is quick to judge, credibility becomes a commodity that's hard to pin down. Analysts weigh in without coaching anymore, players push back before even starting their pro careers, and fans act like armchair generals. Context gets lost, nuance disappears, and suddenly the NFL feels like a credibility free-for-all. It's entertaining, sure, but it also raises a question. If no one's record is sacred and everyone has a platform, who can actually be trusted to call it right? This credibility crisis isn't going away. From coaches to players to analysts, the NFL is in a moment where experience, opinion, and media amplification collide. And the results are messy, fascinating, and completely unpredictable. Shedeur Sanders' response to Rex Ryan isn't just a viral clapback. It's a statement about accountability, awareness, and the changing culture of the NFL. At first glance, it might seem like a rookie quarterback throwing shade at a former coach. But look closer, and you see why it matters. Shedeur didn't attack Stefanski. He defended him not out of loyalty alone, but to highlight a bigger truth. If you're going to criticize someone, your own record better hold up under scrutiny. This isn't about ego. It's about understanding the game, the pressures of coaching, and the realities of the league. Stefanski had to manage a dysfunctional Browns roster, navigate quarterback drama, and deal with injuries that derailed any continuity in his offense. Rex Ryan, meanwhile, hasn't coached since 2016. His last teams were middling, and yet he felt comfortable roasting a man still actively fighting in the trenches. Shedeur saw that and called it out, showing a maturity and perspective far beyond his years. Beyond the personal element, Shedeur's response signals a shift in the NFL itself. The next generation of players is more media-savvy, confident, and unafraid to challenge narratives that feel unfair. They understand the weight of words, and they're willing to hold veterans, analysts, and the league accountable. Shedeur is sending a message. Players aren't just passive participants. They observe, they analyze, and they respond, and that voice matters. This is why his reaction resonated with so many fans and analysts. It's not just a tweet. It's a lesson in credibility, perspective, and the importance of standing up for fairness. Shedeur isn't entering the league to blend in. He's here to make his voice heard, on and off the field. And that kind of confidence, it's exactly what separates the good from the great in today's NFL. When the Browns fired Kevin Stefanski, the debate immediately flared. Who's really to blame for Cleveland's struggles? Was it Stefanski, the coach who led them to a playoff appearance but couldn't solve the quarterback carousel? Or was it the front office, making moves that hampered even the best coaching strategies? Let's start with Stefanski. He wasn't perfect. His play calling sometimes leaned conservative at critical moments, and he never fully unlocked Baker Mayfield's potential before the quarterback's departure. Injuries, inconsistent performance, and a lack of continuity in the roster also made his job almost impossible. Still, he managed to guide the team through chaos, put them in playoff contention, and even earned a Coach of the Year award. That's not nothing. Then there's the broader context. The Deshaun Watson trade and contract had long-term implications that Stefanski couldn't control. Offensive weapons were limited, the offensive line struggled, and roster turnover was relentless. Every plan he tried to implement faced obstacles. When you break it down, it's hard to pin the Browns' struggles solely on him. The irony, of course, comes with Rex Ryan's viral criticism. Stefanski's record is being mocked publicly, while Ryan's own coaching career had its fair share of ups and downs. His last teams often faltered when it mattered, yet he's sitting on TV casting judgment. Shedeur Sanders' clapback highlighted this perfectly. Accountability cuts both ways, and perspective matters. In reality, blame in Cleveland isn't simple. Stefanski was a piece of a bigger puzzle, a challenging system, and a front office with limitations. He made mistakes, yes, but he wasn't the sole problem. And when the context is ignored, it's easy for analysts, fans, and even social media to oversimplify, turning a complex situation into a viral debate.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.